Hey, it's Heidi Dawson, and this is Wednesday Wisdom, where I interview wildly successful people from across the world, where we get an inside view into what their daily life looks like. Success leaves clues, and on Wednesdays, we're finding them. Join me now for the latest wildly successful interview. Hi, guys. Welcome to the 91st episode of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. And it's Wednesday Wisdom, so you know I have somebody fabulous for you today. And my guest today does not disappoint. His name is Sean Anderson, and he is spectacular when it comes to interior design. His work has been featured in Elle Decor, Architectural Digest. It literally stops me in my tracks when I'm scrolling through Instagram and one of his spaces pops up. I'm speechless when I see it. It's that good. So let me introduce you to Sean Anderson. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Heidi. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I'm super excited because I have loved your work for a very long time. And it just kind of put an exclamation point when I went through your Vesta home show. And I know that's been years ago, but it left such a mark on me that I just have always loved your work.
So, well, that means so much. Thank you.
Well, it's true. It's true. So I cannot wait to talk about some of these questions that I have for you about design. And as a co-interior designer, I was just telling you before we started this recording that if I redo my house, I'm going to have you do it. That's how much I love your work. I mean, it's just so pristine, but cool, but, clean all at the same time. So,
well, thank you. I'd be honored.
Okay, so I have to ask you my first question. I love to ask everyone because I think morning routines, I love to hear about people's morning routines. So do you have a morning routine that you can share with us?
I do. I am, or have become over the past couple of years, a bit of an early bird. So
okay.
I'm up kind of early. I like to have a little bit of downtime before starting my day. I've just learned it doesn't serve me well to just jump up and dive right in. So I'm up about 5:30.
Okay.
Start with a liter of water. That's my first thing out of bed.
So do you set your alarm clock for 5:30 or do you get up naturally?
I do, but it's gotten to a point now where I'm kind of naturally just waking up around then.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I like that.
provide myself a little time there first thing in the morning, coffee and kind of mapping out my day. I'm a planner. I like to kind of have some sort of a plan and know how to navigate the day.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so I've heard a lot of people talk about the 5 o'clock club. So I'm an early riser and I like to get up, but I don't get up at 5:30. I usually am around 6-ish, but I'm the same way. I love to start my day with like a kind of a morning, just quiet and not have to jump right into going crazy.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Now you're always super fit. So do you work out do you work out in the morning or?
Oh, well, thanks. I try to work out, period.
Okay.
So, if and when it works out.
Okay, now I hate you, right? Because you're not a regular workout, but you look great every time I see you.
Oh, well, thanks. COVID has really helped me try to find some sort of routine again. So
okay.
I am kind of back to a daily something, whether that means a walk in the afternoon or some sort of workout, whatever it may be. I do dedicate a little time every day to that.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah, I'm a morning girl. So, and with the gyms being kind of weird right now, so I'm kind of having to work out at home, which I don't love because I'm also a social animal. So I get a lot of social outlets at the gym, and I haven't been getting that again because we have to wear the mask at the gym. So anyway, it's kind of crazy. But
yeah, that whole thing's tough.
I know it's fine, but you know what? I'm not complaining. We're gonna get through it.
We're on our way.
We are on our way out. I just know it.
I know, me too.
Okay, all right. So then let's talk a little bit about sleep because I look at your design and all the things you've accomplished, and you are wildly successful at design, wildly successful in your life. So do you find that you get up at 5:30, do you get like 8 hours of sleep? Is there a must amount of time you have to sleep?
My must is about 6.
Okay.
6 to 7 is my sweet spot. If I get more than that, then I'm a little tired. So I don't think I require anything more than about 6.
Okay, that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do. It does seem like most people, it varies so much, but usually it's between 7 and 8. I think are the most average hours that people like to sleep to get.
I think that seems to be most typical. Yeah, but for me, 6 to 7 is my.
Nice. Okay, that's good. All right. So now I look at your design style, and that is not something that can be taught. So it looks to me like you're obviously innately good at design. It shows in every project that I see in your Instagram that I've walked through. So you've turned your passion, apparently it's got to be your passion, into a career, which is amazing. How did you get started in design? I mean, tell me a little bit about how that success was shaped.
There was no real plan in place. I really just kind of stumbled into it. I was at a place in my life where I wasn't exactly sure what to do, honestly, at that point, I wasn't even sure what my passion was. My passion has developed as this has progressed, where now I can say that is truly my passion, but I don't even know that starting out that was the case. And
Okay.
I'm fortunate that that's, where it's led me.
I love that because, so many people are like, how do I find my passion? And some people just, because I look at your projects and I think, that has to have been his passion his whole life. So that's kind of nice to hear that it wasn't like you weren't born going, I want to be a designer. So
No. I painted and did a lot of art as a, student and as a young adult. And it was later in life that I always had an interest in it. I was always drawn to those things, to the beauty of interiors, to that whole world and that environment. But I never really considered it to be an option or a path for me.
Okay.
And so it was later in, probably my late 20s, in between jobs, kind of uncertain of the future, where I started working on my home with my ex-partner, and it just slowly kind of organically evolved as I did more and more rooms in that home. Friends started seeing them. They asked me to help me with theirs. So this whole path has really been a word of mouth process.
I love that. I love that so much because your first home, I think I have a friend who went through it.
Yes, we do. We have a mutual friend, and she was there.
Teresa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I thought so. And she was just raving about your home, and I was like, oh my gosh. And she goes, "You're not even going to believe when you see his work." And I was like, really? Okay. I cannot wait. And then I saw a couple pictures, and then I saw your Vesta. So, I knew at the point, I was like, okay, this guy's really good. So that's great. But so you started kind of doing work by people seeing your home and then you designing for other people. I love that because I have people that listen to the podcast that are maybe budding interior designers, and they're just kind of doing it for themselves. So that's great, because it gives them the idea that they can do it, even if they didn't start out, or they didn't go to school for it or whatever. They can do it if you're good at it and it's your passion. That's the key.
That is the key. And I believe if that's there, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, I think so too, because you can teach, like in school, they taught me how to do, grid paper and Revit and all these things, but you cannot teach going into a space and seeing and feeling what it should be, and then putting it into an action plan and making it happen. So that kind of leads into the next question that I have for you. Do you work like big picture, or do you have like room to room? Because each room in the spaces that I've seen that you've designed, every room feels like it flows, but it also feels like it has its own individual character. So I'm wondering if you do that as a plan, or how do you do your plan?
To be honest, it's a bit of both. We do a lot of projects that are full-scale homes, so it's not just a one-off room. And so when we approach something like that, I do have to sit initially and really focus on the overall, the big picture, and
Right.
kind of know where we're going to take the project, what the objective is. But once we've kind of sat and studied that a bit, I can then branch off and start focusing on different rooms or room by room.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting, because it's, how much of a play is the client's design style come into it? Because your style is very, very specific. So do people come to you and they're like, I just love it, do what you do? Did we break up there a little bit?
yeah, we did just a little bit. You're back.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry. So my question was, how much of a play does the design of the style of your client come into play? Like, do they come to you and go, I just love what you do. Just do that. Or do
Well,
they?
they all differ. You know, we've had clients on each end of the spectrum. We've had some that have just come in and we love your work, like do what you do, and then we have others that definitely have a point of view, or they have furnishings that we have to find a place for, different things like that. And I'm, willing to go with either approach. It doesn't really
Sure.
matter to me at the end of the day, as long as I leave with the client happy. That's the end goal.
I love that. Yeah, that's so nice, because you do hear sometimes where where interior designers are like, well, this is how I do it, and
Mhm.
I love being able to take a person, because they live there. I'm not going to live there. You're not
Exactly.
living in their
Yeah.
space, so they
This
need
is no just as no two people are the same on the entire planet. Like, I don't feel like any two interiors or spaces ever have to look identical. So, embracing that individuality is something that's paramount when I design a project.
Well, now you are kind of like, I think you kind of got your start sort of with the black, like dark, right? But I'm
I
seeing,
think that was kind of our first, big moment. And I love a dark, moody
oh
environment.
my gosh, yes, I love it
Ever and
too.
always.
I don't know that I would be able to live in that, like a black room. Like this room I'm in right now, it's kind of dark just because it's cloudy, but I like bright light. And
Hmm.
so I'm seeing some of your work seems to be brighter. Is that the case, or is
Yeah,
there?
we've got, both ends. I think I don't know. I'm a fan of the dark just because of the moodiness and
Yeah,
just the kind
that
of mystery
feel.
behind that. Yeah, it's the feeling, and
Hmm.
it's sometimes hard to obtain if it's all bright. Now, I think
Yeah.
natural light actually is a very important component of that in making it work. But if that's there, my last house was entirely black, exterior, interior, every room. So, and I
And I
never
bet that
had
it felt, I can just imagine, like, I'm all about feel. And so,
a
it's, if you can create a feel, it is, that's where the money is. And
absolutely.
okay, so an all black house. I like that. I actually think I would enjoy that, like to have an all black house and then have one where it was all white.
Yeah,
I'd love to
absolutely.
have
One
one.
of each.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, so now your spaces, each of them, I've noticed that even when I see them on Instagram or in magazines, they have each piece seems like it's very specific. You don't let anything just kind of randomly go. I mean, the Vesta home show that I walked through, every piece was thought out.
I have a very big attention to detail, and so that it's important.
Yeah.
Like we just said, no two spaces are ever intended to be the exact same. So it's important to find those elements that give you the individuality that sets them apart from everything else.
And the amount of time that takes, though, like it seems there, I know because I do it, but I know that the detail, like I'm more big picture, I don't get as detailed, like
Mhm.
those kind of bog me down a little bit. But your every space has that detail, and I know the amount of time it has to take, because you're looking at every little thing. So
It can be time consuming. I think a lot of it that I've been able to achieve has also been embracing um, older and imperfect things,
right.
antiques, different
Yes.
things that just salvaged and found,
Something
and
that strikes you.
that you can't necessarily replicate, or you're not going to go out and see 20 of in the next store. And
Right.
so interjecting each environment with at least a touch of that
Yeah.
is what's helped me along the
I
way.
like that. Yeah, I definitely feel that in your spaces. So now another thing that is huge, and this is something I love to talk about, is lighting. So do you do your own lighting, or do you use a lighting designer? Because the lighting
No,
always seems really
we
good.
generally do it in-house. It for me is my favorite part of the design process.
Oh, mine too.
Yeah,
Mine too.
and
Because that's where you create the mood.
absolutely. Yeah,
So how do
absolutely.
you go about that? Like where?
It's generally the first thing I select in a space is the light
Yeah.
or like fixtures. And then we work everything else around that. Just like we just talked about with the moody environments and the dark spaces, in order to appropriately have those spaces work is to have them correctly lit because
Right.
they are dark. And so it's very intentional on the front end to make sure that's there. Now, of course, I do like as much natural light as possible, but
Yes.
that also, it still limits you. And so you've got to be very strategic in how it's lit. You know, every light for me in the house should be on a dimmer. Just
Yes.
like going to a dining, dining experience, a restaurant for dinner.
Yes.
I love a dark environment. I
So
want
do
to
I.
struggle to read the menu. Like that's what
I
does it.
know. I got to get your flashlight out to even see it.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I want to be able to have that in my own home. And so
Yes.
in order to get that and it work properly, you've got to be strategic and plan on the front end.
So true. And so the lighting, and this is something where I always try, and I think really good designers do this, is you got to think about, we're there during the day a lot of the times. And so
Right.
you got to think about how it's going to look at night. I mean, and I actually will tell people, look, this is where the dimmer should be on the light switch, right in the middle, maybe just a little bit lower for this one, to create that feel, because most people are just like, it doesn't look like that when you leave. So
Right.
I actually will say, okay, this dimmer needs to be here, this one needs to be here. And, we've created layers of lighting. So at night, because that's when the lighting really makes a big deal. Do you do like cove lighting and things like that, or up lights?
Yeah. We
Oh,
do. I like a mix, floor lamps, table lamps, pin lights, picture lights, anything we can add to help the mood
yeah,
and
love
the
it.
feel.
I love it. That is another reason why the feel is so good, because the lighting. And sometimes when you leave it to someone else, you're not getting exactly what you want for the feel of the overall design.
Yeah, so I do like you. I'll go through and preset for my clients as well.
I
So
love
this is
it.
how you should live. Now, what you do when I leave is up to you, but
Yeah, yeah.
this is how
So
it
do you
should be.
go back to some clients and they've like added little things here and there, and you're like,
We
what?
do, and it's fun. It's interesting to see how many, and we have like such a different range with our clients. Some I will go back a year later and not a thing has moved. Nothing
Yes,
has changed. It's exactly how you left it. And
yes,
then some have really embraced that it's their home and
right.
it needs to feel and work the way they want it to.
Mhm.
And that's equally as great. I love seeing, however, as long as they're happy
Yes,
and
of course.
settled, that's, I'm happy.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So, um, our we talked about dark and light, and we also, I love to have certain white paints. Is
Mhm.
there? I know every designer, I think, has their certain go-to paint colors, and paint is the hardest thing, I think, to get right.
It
Do
is
you have?
difficult because it never is the same. Your
Oh,
lighting situation will change it. There's so
yeah.
many like numerous factors that affect how it's going to be seen.
Right.
So
Right. So
yeah,
you
I
can't
agree with
just do a generic like color palette. So it's.
you. Right.
But do you have favorite paint colors that you use?
I do. My go-to, quote unquote white is Benjamin Moore's Classic Gray.
Oh, okay. Classic gray.
Classic Gray is most any interior you've seen from me that has a white room, that's the color it is.
Interesting. Mine is white dove, OC17 from Benjamin
I
Moore.
love White Dove too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really good.
it's a kind of a creamy one. And then I use Edgecombe gray pretty much every house.
Really? Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. I'll have to look it up.
Edgecombe gray is what it's not in this room, but it is in that room. It is a creamy, warm, white gray.
Oh, it sounds beautiful. Yeah, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, look it up because I do it on the wall, the trim, and the ceiling, and it looks and feels so fun and so just calming. But still, it's not white. You know,
Right.
it's
There's some
got
white.
gray to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is there any other colors that you just are like, oh my gosh, this one's so good? Because I'm gonna look at classic gray because I haven't really experienced that one.
Really, I mean, most of my interiors, as you've seen, are either black or white. So
Black or
that's
white.
my white. And then we just play around with the dark hues. They're so,
Yeah.
lighting does affect that even more so, I
Yes.
think,
Yes.
than the whites. And so we've tried a bunch of different dark hues and blacks.
Yeah, the blacks can go very different. You know, it
Mhm.
can be like a brown black or a blue black,
A lot
you
of
know.
blue, a lot of green. Yes, you
Uh-huh.
gotta really play around. I'm a huge fan of samples and getting all those up first and really sitting and living with it for a bit.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's the key is always, you know, some people are just like, just pick one. And I'm like, well, it would help if we would paint them on the wall and look at them at night and during the day and when the sun's up and when the sun's down, you know. So, okay, good. I'm glad that we talked about that. All right. So, are there certain mistakes that you see people making in their home that maybe you could help us avoid? I mean, do you see things kind of consistently that you're like, oh my goodness, I wish people would stop doing this?
Well, I think it's just, in a larger context, it's just the following of trends that we see time and time again. Whatever's
Okay.
trendy in the moment,
Yeah.
everyone clamors to like achieve that in their own space. And I think that's where a lot of the mistakes along the way happen.
That is such a good answer
Because
because
it might not
yeah,
necessarily be true to who they are, what appeals to them, what they're drawn to, but they do it because it's trendy and they see it everywhere. And
yeah.
then I think they've lost, the whole message on the front end.
That's so good because it, you know, I know, and I hate to even mention any trends because then somebody's gonna be like, oh, well, that wasn't really a trend, but you know, I have that in my house right now. But you know, I agree with you that sometimes the trends get people kind of
A little misguided.
yeah, they get a little excited on it.
Yeah, and I think it's just,
Yeah,
when we all embrace like our own aesthetic and what we're drawn to, that's when people really achieve spaces that they truly love. And then
right.
they're not tired of them in like, 6 to 9 months or a year down the road and ready to start changing things up again. That's why I think we see so much of that, because people have gotten caught in that cycle and
Uh,
they're just trying to
that's the
catch up
trend.
instead of just kind of sitting for a moment, living with the space and judging it by what they're drawn to.
I know, but Sean, I think with your spaces, and I try to do this as well, but I think you kind of have a palette that's so
Mhm.
classic that even if someone decided they wanted, you know, different art or different, you know, pillows or something, I think when you do a palette that is classic to start with, then it makes it easier for your client to switch it up even in 10 years, it's like I want a different feel, so I'm going to do a different piece of art, so
And I think like that classic approach is like, the key to longevity.
absolutely.
You
I
know,
remember when I first started out doing interior design and I think about some of the things and I was like, oh my goodness, like
we all
one
do that.
oh my gosh, 1 year later, I remember the very first client and I was terrified, and I love her to this day, but we did black wallpaper and it had white circles with zebra stripes in them
Mhm.
everywhere. And I look back and I think she hates that wallpaper now, I'm sure, and I'm certain that she's changed it. So
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we all have those stories, trust me.
okay, good. Well, that makes me feel better. All right, so we know your spaces are fabulous, and I know I can tell by the scale of your projects that not everybody can afford to have you walk in there and grace their home. So, do you have any maybe just advice for someone who doesn't have the budget to hire an interior designer? I mean, just kind of basic advice of like, hey, here's a couple things that maybe you could do, or don't do this or do this.
Yeah, well, I think, we're living in a day and age where technology and all these things at our disposal are so readily available, like Instagram and Pinterest and things like that. So it does provide people an avenue to source and find inspiration easily. And I think if people really take advantage of that, like there's so much to be learned with that. So
Right.
it's something that's free, it's right there at your disposal. And for someone sitting at home that might not have the budget to hire a designer, they can sit and kind of do their own homework. Kind of our approach as designers, we make those mood boards or whatever you
Right.
want to call it. They can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Pull images and save images of spaces, of objects, of things that speak to you, and then kind of compile that and study it and see what is it in each one of those images that you're drawn to. What is the overall feel? What cohesive elements are you recognizing through that can
So
guide you
good.
into your own home?
Yes, that's so good because in their compilation of that, the rooms may look different. Like you may have 25 different pictures, but there's gonna be something in there that you are drawn to. And if you get that, I love that because look for the consistencies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it a color palette? Is it a
Yes.
use of metal or wood or some sort of natural element? Like find those, cohesive moments
So good. So good. Yes. Okay.
and
So
lean
that's
into that.
wonderful advice. Wonderful advice. Because I know a lot of times it can be confusing. People are like, "Oh, there's so much." I have all these pictures, but I don't know exactly what it is. And that is the key: is go through them and see
Yeah.
consistent. Okay.
Exactly, because it can be overwhelming. I mean, you have so much
Oh,
information coming at you from every angle, but it literally take one photo a day and
yeah.
just study that photo and see what things in that environment you're drawn to and make a list. And then
Mhm.
if you do that for everyone, you'll go back and judge and you'll see exactly what it is that you like.
There will be a consistent
For
pattern
sure.
for sure. All right. So finally, I have enjoyed this little chat that we've had so much, but this question is new to the podcast. I've asked it a few times, and I always love what comes out of it. But being wildly successful to me, it always includes being happy and
Mhm.
happiness. And two things I want to ask you. One is going to be a little bit different, but when are you the happiest? Like, what makes you genuinely happy as a person?
After this year, I mean, we're sitting here in 2020, we've been through so much, highs and lows, many, many lows. Um,
Yes.
and I think it's just finding that place where I'm doing my best. And I know that I'm doing my best. I'm giving it my all, whether it's in a personal relationship, a business opportunity, whatever it may be. Like when I know I'm giving my best, that is when I'm happy.
That
I
is
don't feel
so,
like I'm missing
I
out
love
on
that.
anything. I don't feel like, it's just we're doing all we can. And as long as
Right.
I know I'm doing that, I'm happy.
Well, that's good because when we're kind of get into the mode of that where we expect something more from ourselves or we're expecting, these goals and how do we get to this next thing, but just being satisfied with where you are currently.
Hmm.
And I think that's beautiful and I love that.
Yeah, I do. For me at home, it's just, I've got to have everything in order. If everything's in order, then I'm at peace. I'm calm. My anxiety level is down. So once the order is there, um,
Yeah.
it makes me happy.
Yeah. Organization, your mind can settle.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'm interviewing in 2 days from now a feng shui expert, which I'm so psyched about.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to that.
I know it's gonna be good because I told her I'm just dangerous enough. I mean, just know enough just to be dangerous about feng shui, But I think that's
Uh-huh.
a feel. So, all right. So, how do people work with you? First of all, what's the best way to follow you? How do we find you on social media? And I'll put this all in the show notes too.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's Sean Anderson Design on Instagram. And then my website, which is being rebuilt and launching early next year, is SeanAndersonDesign.com.
Okay, and I went there today and it's beautiful
Thank
already.
you. Yeah, it's under construction. So we have a lot of new content, a lot of new things. We're kind of going through a bit of a rebrand at the moment. So we're really looking forward to 2021 and all we
Yeah.
can share and do in the new year.
Well, what I'm seeing looks really, really good. So
Well, thank you.
you are very welcome. And thank you so much for coming on today. I know you're super busy, and I'm just excited that we got to chat.
Oh, likewise. Thanks for the opportunity.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.